Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is, wherever you are. Welcome to today's Crypto Blast, where myself and Cam from Institutional Fi, mainly Cam, will be giving a rapid roundup and update on crypto markets, including pricing, flows, and market moving news. But before he does, and so that I don't get into trouble, I'll get the legals out of the way. Nothing discussed on this space session constitutes trading or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by PIQ, Institutional Fi, myself, Ryan Paisley, or indeed Cam. Cam, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Ryan. How are you?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Monday's crept up on me rather rapidly. I'm not sure where the weekend went, but there you go. What's been happening in crypto markets, my dear friend?
I can agree on you with that one for sure. There's been a lot happening, so we're going to jump straight into it. Really impressively, we start off with Bitcoin. It's currently trading $119,000. And you'll
Get up.
notice that, yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? For 17 straight days, BTC is almost trading. I say almost because there was a couple of hours where it wasn't. But for the majority, it's traded within a tight 5% band. Holding firmly with the lows and support coming in around $114,770. Incredible price range, at these all-time highs. We're continuing to see this strong, price action as well, even though last week or over the last 2 weeks, we've seen BTC face some selling pressure, including one, absolute Bitcoin OG. What a legend, who sold over $9 billion worth of Bitcoin at these highs. He sold 80,000 BTC, and made a profit of exceeding $9 billion. I just
Nice.
want
Yeah.
to
Fair
just
play.
keep
Fair play.
continuing to tip my hat
Yeah.
and just give this guy a round of applause. Because, obviously, if you've had this Bitcoins in your possession for the whole time, there's been several periods of time where you could have sold off. But, whether this was taken into consideration or not, you can't, I don't know. So I'd have to presume you're selling
Just
into a market which can handle it.
in speaking of Bitcoin, so I'm looking at Bitcoin, funny enough, Bitcoin chart on the PIQ platform. There you go.
Okay.
Obviously, I'm looking at it now. So basically, the last time we kind of spent any significant time below $100,000 was basically first week of May. So basically, apart from a few blips below, since the 1st of May, pretty much 1st of May that week, we've been
hmm
above 100,000. Even when we've had some significant down days, it's still been relatively small compared to what we were used to. Um, and then you look at the seasonals, and again, I'm no massive believer in seasonals, but for Bitcoin, we definitely last 2 years at least. You get to what August. Well, basically, you could almost argue that end of July is basically where you normally see like the doldrums, the lows, and then it's like
hmm
August onwards is kind of, well, maybe August you could argue first. August we see like the lows periodically throughout the year, but then we kind of grind higher. So potentially we're putting ourselves in a position where the year end rally that kind of normally looks to take on effect from about September, upwards from here we go, right? Hopefully.
Upwards from upwards. That's what I'm hearing there. Yeah, exactly. If you were to look at the seasonal side of things, you would then expect BTC to head a lot higher, which all of a sudden seems like these end of year price points of around $200,000 don't seem too far off if you're going with, the momentum that BTC's had in previous years. So it's definitely going to be one to keep an eye on. And as we're seeing these, the Satoshi era wallets wake up and start selling into the market, they're meeting and they're selling into demand, which is really having a minimal effect on the
Yeah.
price. So, some very calculated selling, and whether re-enter it, later down the line, who knows? Who knows? But for now, we're seeing massive corporate demand and we're going to get more stories into that. However, they do take a shift. Because, the story of the headlines seem to be shifting slightly away from BTC. We saw Ethereum surge past around $3,900, hitting a new year-to-date high and approaching a critical level of resistance at $4,000. I've seen quite a few predictions, saying actually resistance is at $4,089 exactly. But we've got a lot of liquidity to be completely wiped out from people doing 100x leverage. I think this, if BTC was if Ethereum was to cross over $4,000, as it stands, around $1.1 billion will be liquidated in perpetual futures. So, it could potentially propel the markets even further once it crosses that $4,000 line, but there is a little bit of resistance to cross over before it gets to that point. Just remember, yeah, around early June or early July, BTC, Ethereum was trading around $2,800. So, yeah, a $2,000 move up is incredible,
Yeah,
to see. So
absolutely.
it could be fueled even more toward the upside. Notably on the ETF side of things, we do like to pay attention to these flows. It is the story's Bitcoin still, on a week to week basis. But on Friday, we saw, and it's some interesting price action so on the 25th of July, Ethereum spot ETFs recorded a total net inflow of $453 million, marking their 16th consecutive day of net inflows. And the ETF with the largest net inflow was, of course, BlackRock, with their ticker ETH, which saw around $440 million in net inflows. Bitcoin spot ETF saw a total net inflow of around $131 million, again with BlackRock's IBIT leading the charge there with $92 million. So last week, between the 21st to the 25th, spot Ethereum ETF saw a weekly net inflow of 1.8 billion with a B. It's a massive amount pouring into the Ethereum ETFs. This is the second highest week on record. Spot Bitcoin ETF recorded a net inflow of only $72 million. I'm going to say only in contrast to Ethereum's whopping $1.8 billion. So yeah, seventh consecutive week of net inflows for Bitcoin, however, waning against Ethereum by quite some margin last week. If we move down the market cap list, in terms of altcoins, XRP is currently trading at $3.24. Probably the highlight of last week was BNB, which is the Binance Exchange token, trading currently at $850. This is after making the all-time highs, and Solana trading at $191, being rejected from the $200 line. But we do have some news about more Solana or potential more Solana treasuries being restored. So, it doesn't seem to be having a direct impact on spot price of Sol just yet. But again, we saw this with Ethereum before it made its rally higher. A couple of weeks before that, we started to see all these treasury companies start coming out of the woodwork. So it might be one to watch for Solana. Windtree Therapeutics, if we move on to news, plans to buy up to $700 million worth of BNB, which is that Binance Exchange token we were just talking about after the coin hit new all-time highs. The company has already committed around $520 million to fund their treasury. However, they've added an additional $200 million to adding into the treasury account, with Kraken acting as the custodian there. Yeah, an interesting one. I think we covered this on Wednesday, this story with the initial pot, but they're added over $200 million to that pot now to bring the total up to $700 million. Metaplanet continues their buying streak for Bitcoin, adding 780 more BTC at an average cost of $93 million. Moving across the world to Nigeria, Nigeria's SEC signals the country's welcome stance to stablecoin businesses under a regulated framework. Interesting. Strategy releases its pricing of its STRC stretch perpetual preferred stock offering. What on earth do those words mean? Increased deal from $500 million to $2.5 billion. So there's a lot of demand for this perpetual preferred stock offering. This has got to be their sixth offering. He knows how to raise money. That's if you say anything about Michael Saylor, he knows how to raise money to buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, no, exactly that.
According to Bloomberg, Tether CEO said that the company is planning to re-enter the US market with a focus on institutional clients, offering stablecoins for payments, interbank settlements and trading. He emphasized that Tether has no intention to go public and will continue to prioritize emerging markets while expanding in the US. So a little bit more detail there on their entering back into the United States with a stablecoin focused on institutional clients, which was not something he had mentioned before. According to Unchained, Asymmetric founder Joe McCann will serve as CEO of Accelerate, a new Solana treasury company, and plans to raise around $1.5 billion to become the largest Solana trust company, and is expected to purchase around 7.3 million SOL. So that's that Solana treasury news that we mentioned earlier. A French bank, I'm going to butcher the name, Société Générale.
Société Générale. Come on, mate. Come on, they're a massive bank.
I know, I hadn't listened to the audio. I was like, oh man, I'm going to butcher the name. Right, there we go.
You just call it SocGen.
SocGen, that's it.
Okay.
They're going to provide OTC liquidity support for 21 shares Bitcoin and Ethereum ETPs on its platform in Germany and Eastern Europe, making these products accessible to a wider group of professional investors. Arkham, which is an intelligence blockchain group, they said that the US government currently holds at least 198,000 BTC. That's valued at $23.5 billion across multiple addresses held by different government arms. None of this has moved in over 4 months. And this comes in after news stories last week were circulating that the DOJ had sold off a large portion of their Bitcoin holdings. However, all these news outlets that were reporting this news story failed to look on chain and see that this funds hadn't moved at all. There's been no word of official statement from the government about selling the Bitcoin holdings. But if you look on chain, there's been no movement. Tether announced that it assisted the US authorities in freezing and reissuing about $1.6 million in USDT. These funds were related to a Gaza buy cash company and were accused of terrorist financing. Tether said it had froze more than $2.9 billion in USDT. The Central Bank of Ghana plans to submit a draft regulatory framework for crypto platforms to Parliament by September, intending to issue licenses to virtual asset platforms. About 3 million Ghanaian adults, 17% of the adult population, use digital currencies, which is quite an interesting fact.
There you go.
Tokyo Stock Exchange listed AI company Quantum Solutions has announced a plan to hold up to 3,000 BTC over the next 12 months, aiming to hedge against currency and inflation risks amid what they said a weakening yen and global financial instability. Circle announced that Binance will accept its yield-based stablecoin USYC as collateral for institutional clients, which will be able to dispute interest income to holders. Binance also announced that it will integrate CUSDO, another yield-based stablecoin issued by OpenEden Digital. According to Bloomberg, Tom Foundation and Kingsway Capital plan to raise $400 million for a crypto finance firm that will use TON tokens as its treasury asset. The unnamed firm will adopt a structure known as private investment in public equity. Interestingly, on TON, actually, just as another little tidbit that I picked up on over the weekend, USDT, so Tether's stablecoin, their issuance on the TON network, or not Tron network, sorry, overtook the issuance on Ethereum's network. So yeah, there's now more USDT supply sat on the Tron network than there is on Ethereum. Just thought that was an interesting fact. And I wonder if this leads other stablecoin issuers to start looking toward Tron instead of Ethereum for issuing their stablecoins. According to the New York Times, Christie International Real Estate has launched a dedicated crypto real estate division, becoming the first major US brokerage to handle property transactions conducted entirely in cryptocurrency without relying on traditional banks. According to the SGGP, the National Data Association of Vietnam is advancing the development of the NDAC chain, a national level blockchain platform aimed at enhancing digital security and transparency in crucial sectors such as government affairs, finance and healthcare. According to Digital Galaxy, the firm recently facilitated the sale, again, this is what we just mentioned, of over 80,000 bitcoins, valued at more than $9 billion at the current prices on behalf of a Satoshi era investor. The transaction, among the largest notional trades in crypto history, was part of the investor's estate planning strategy. And lastly, according to Argentina media crypto entrepreneur, I'm going to use that terms loosely, Hayden Davis has admitted to in a US court filing that the Libra project is a meme coin, denying it was an investment with a business plan. On the January 30th, during a meeting with President Milei, Davis linked wallets transferred nearly 500,000 USDC to Kraken. The case involved over $280 million in frozen assets, with a court hearing set for August 19th in New York City. Yeah, that was the big old meme coin that Argentina's president got involved in, and then they wrote.
Yeah, I almost forgot about that, to be honest.
I know. Well, hopefully everybody will forget about that soon enough.
Yeah.
Siphoning over $1 billion of people's money is not a good story to end on, but it looks like justice could be coming in August.
For who though?
And that is your lot for D. I don't know. For the president's name, probably.
Was it his wife that was involved in it? Was that, or was it it was like a family member, right?
I think it was him. He himself basically announced the launch of the token on his Twitter.
Yeah, but what I mean is
And then,
that it was I remember, wasn't it the guy behind it was basically saying it was like I'm sure it was his sister or his wife, or it involved someone like that he was the guy that behind it was called bragging and saying that he had like the inside line to these people. And basically Milei was just told what to tweet.
I mean, you would assume that. I'm sure as a president of Argentina, you're very, very busy and don't have time to start talking about meme coins.
No, exactly. No,
Yeah.
whoever was behind it definitely mentioned that he was caught. It was like a WhatsApp message that was shared where he was basically boasting about he had this inside line to a family member behind Milei, but I'm sure it was his wife or his sister, or it was definitely a woman. But anyway, but Cam, thank you so much for the update. Listeners, thank you as always for tuning in, and we will see Cam on Wednesday. So whatever you're doing,
See you then.
keep it tight. Hopefully at that point, Bitcoin will be, I don't know, 125, 130 even. We'll see. But yeah, whatever you're doing, keep it tight, stay safe, much love, and we'll see you all on Wednesday.
You heard it here first.